Hey, I'm Badr, founder of Callium AI. Today, I want to walk you through exactly how enterprise-grade AI voice agents get built, and more importantly, why 90% of what you see being sold right now is going to create serious problems for the businesses that buys it. This is not a product pitch. I'm going to show you the technical truth behind AI voice agents, the latency problem, the hallucination, security, and legal problems, and what actually solving them looks like. If you are an SMB owner thinking about AI voice or a developer building this system for a client, this is the video you need to watch before you make an expensive mistake. Let's get into it. So let me start with something you've probably seen. Someone on YouTube or Twitter posts a video, I built an AI receptionist in 15 minutes, here is how. And what they actually built is this. They watched few tutorials, they opened NAN or Make, dragged and dropped some nodes with zero architect planning, they dumped all their clients' business information, menu, prices, hours, directly into the LLM system prompt, because that's the easy way. Then they let the LLM do the calculation. Ask it what time slots are available, the LLM guesses. Ask it to confirm a price, the LLM might get it wrong. They use Zapier as the integration layer, which means anytime Zapier has an outage or a Zap fails silently, data just disappear. No one knows. No encryption on calls recording, no AI disclosure at the start of the call, which is actually illegal in the US since 2024, shared infrastructure across all their clients, and absolutely zero monitoring, zero login, zero plan for what happens when it breaks. This is what the no-code AI gurus world is shipping, and businesses are paying for it. Now, let me show you what it actually looks like when you build this properly. You start with architecture. Before you write a single node, you diagram the call flow, the failure path, the data model. You know exactly what happens when calendar APIs go down, when the CRM webhook fail, when the LLM returns something unexpected. You use RAG to ground every single response in verified business data. The LLM never guesses prices, never guesses availability, never guesses hours. It retrieves that information from a verified source every single time. You write JavaScript code node for all calculation, slot availability, time zone conversion, pricing logic. You never ask a language model to do math. That's a fundamental architecture rule. You build native CRM integrations with retry logic and dead letter queues. So if a write fails, it retries automatically and alerts you if it can't be completed. You encrypt every call recording with IAS 256. You automate the AI disclosure at call start because legally you have no choice. You give every client their own dedicated infrastructure and you instrument everything. Structured logs, P95 latency alerts, run books for on-call. That's what Callium is. That's the standard we build to. Let's talk about the first major technical problem, latency. A human conversation has a natural response window of 2 to 600 milliseconds. When someone asks you a question, you expect an answer within that window. Anything above 600 milliseconds starts to feel like the other person is thinking too long. Anything above a second feels broken. Most platforms on the market today, and I've tested them, are running 800 milliseconds to 2 seconds, someone even higher. And that's not a minor inconvenience. 56 of callers hang up after just 2 seconds of silence. Your client is losing more than half their calls before the AI even responds. The reason for this architecture, this platform processes sequentially. The speech to text finishes, then the LLM starts, then text to speech starts. That's a waterfall. Each step adds latency on top of the previous one. Callium runs all three stages in parallel. The ASR is still processing the end of your sentence while the LLM is already generating a response. The TTS starts rendering before the LLM has finished. That's how you get sub 400 millisecond end to end. That's the difference between a conversation and a broken phone call. The second problem is hallucination, and this one has real legal and financial consequences. Look at this chart. A generic LLM just throwing your business info in the system prompt and asking it question hallucinates 10 to 12% of the time. Prompt engineering alone gets you around 7%, basic RAG brings it down to 3%. Callium RAG plus architecture gets it under 0.6%. Now, 3% might sound fine, but think about what 3% means in practice. For every 100 call, 3 times your AI is confidently giving a caller wrong information, wrong price, wrong hours, wrong availability. And unlike a human who can correct themselves, the AI doesn't know it's wrong. It says with full confidence. This has happened. A healthcare provider got a $2.3 million fine because their voice AI was giving patients incorrect information. A law firm nearly faced malpractice claim because the AI gave wrong intake information to a client and no one caught it. The rule is simple. The LLM never know your business facts. It retrieves them from a verified data source every single time. That is non-negotiable. Third problem, shared infrastructure. And this one is a security and reliability problem that most vendors will never mention in their sales pitch. When you use most AI voice platform, your client data, their call recording, their customer information, their conversation history sits in the same database as every other customer on the platform, including potentially their competitors. You can see it here. Shared database, shared LLM context, shared queues, no encryption key is isolation. If there is a peak traffic period, say Black Friday for an e-commerce client, everyone on the platform degrades together. And if the vendor goes bankrupt, what happens to your client data? There is often no contractual answer to that question. Callium gave every single client their own isolated environment, separate virtual machines, separate encryption keys, so even if another client data were somehow compromised, it can't touch yours. Separate database namespaces, separate LLM context. The data is completely isolated and every client gets a contractual data deletion guarantee when they're off board. That's what enterprise security actually looks like. This brings me to something that's fundamental to how Callium works, and it's the thing that separates us from every other platform in this space. Callium is not a SaaS product. You don't sign up, pick a template, and deploy the same agent that 5,000 other businesses are using. Every Callium client or deployment is a custom build. We work with an HVAC company. We built an agent that understands emergency dispatch logic, seasonal pricing, technical routing, the actual workflow of that specific business. When we work with a law firm, we build intake qualification flow, conflict checking, recording compliance specific to their jurisdiction. A medical practice gets appointment booking with insurance verification. A SaaS company gets leads qualification tied directly to the CRM via deal stage logic. Generic platforms sell you the same template regardless of your industry. Caller notice immediately. The agent doesn't know the right terminology. It can't handle edge cases. It sounds like a chatbot. Custom mean it sounds like someone who actually work there. Now I want you to give you the 6 mistakes I see in every or in almost every self-built AI voice agent that's come to my door. Number 1, letting the LLM do the math and the date and timing math. Never do this. LLM hallucinate date, time zone conversion. Every single time slows calculation, every availability check that goes into JavaScript node. Always JavaScript. Number 2, no retry logic on CRM writes. A webhook fails, no retry, lead is lost. In production, you need exponential backoff and a dead letter queue. Anything less is amateur. Number 3, system prompt as a knowledge base. Dumping 5,000 words of business info into the system prompt costs 10 times more in token, causes hallucination from attention delusion, and make the agent harder to update. Use RAGs. Number 4, no recorded encryption. GDPR Article 32 require appropriate technical measures to protect personal data. Plain text call recording are data breach waiting to happen. Number 5, one Twilio account for all your clients. If one client gets a violation, all your numbers get flagged. Every client need their own isolated account, non-negotiable. Number 6, no AI disclosure at call start. The FCC ruled in February 2024 that AI-generated voices are artificial voices under the TCPA. Every call must disclose that the caller is speaking with an AI. Violations are 500 to 1500 per call. A campaign of 10k calls without disclosure is potentially a 15 million liability. This is low. Let me show you what a real production grade AI voice workflow actually looks like. Not a toy, not a demo, but something you'd actually deploy for a real client. This is a restaurant booking workflow built in 5 layers. Layer 1. Every call that comes in from Retell AI immediately trigger an AI disclosure. Automated, logged, compliant. Then we check the DNS list and normalize the phone number in JavaScript node. Then we run RAG retrieval to get the current menu, hours, and specials. Then Claude handles the language understanding. Then, critically, another JavaScript node extracts the intent and entities, not the LLM, JavaScript. Layer 2. All the booking logic, JavaScript calculates the time slot, converts, time zones, checks capacity. It also calls Google Calendar to check availability, create the booking, upserts the contact in HubSpot, send a confirmation SMS via Twilio. Every single calculation is JavaScript. The LLM touches none of it. Layer 3. Security and fault tolerance. AES encrypt the recording. Audit log is written for GDPR and HIPAA compliance. Backup region is on hot standby. Circuit breaker isolates any API failure. Dead letter queue catches failed writes and retry them. Pager duty alerts if anything critical fails. Layer 4. The development lifecycle. Unit tests are 90% coverage. Integration tests across CRM, calendar, ASR. Load testing at 10K concurrent calls. CI/CD pipeline. Compliance QA that checks TCPA and GDPR requirement. Blue-green deployment with zero downtime. Layer 5. Data lifecycle. Consent login. Auto deletion after 30 days. GDPR data export API. Signed URLs never direct blob access. Quarterly penetration testing. That's what a real deployment looks like. Before I show you the competitive landscape, let me give you a quick checklist. If you are evaluating any AI voice agent platform for yourself or for a client, here are 7 red flags that tell you immediately what you're dealing with. Zapier as the primary integration, it breaks silently, no retry, and data disappear. System prompt as the knowledge base, 10x token cost, hallucination from attention delusion. Live in 24-hour promises, that means zero QA, zero error handling, zero load testing. No AI disclosure on calls, illegal since February 2024 under the FCC TCPA ruling. Shared Twilio account for all clients, one violation flags everything. No call recording encryption, GDPR Article 32 violation waiting to happen. And then the biggest one, letting the LLM calculate prices, availability, or dates. If you see this in any architecture, walk away. It will hallucinate. It's not a question of if, it's when. Now, let's look at where Callium sits relative to the platforms in our specific market. I'm not going to trash anyone specifically, but I will tell you what the data shows. Sub 400 latency. Callium is the only platform that hits this consistently. Most of the other either don't publish latency numbers or are above 600 milliseconds in real-world testing. RAG grounding. Callium uses full RAG. A few competitors offer partial RAGs or prompt engineering workaround. Most offer nothing. Dedicated infrastructure per client. Callium only. Everyone else is multi-tenant shared infrastructure. TCPA compliance built-in. AAS encryption, custom build per client, JavaScript, code node, Callium only across the board. This isn't about being the biggest platform, it's about being the most architecturally sound one. And right now, in this specific market, the gap is significant. Here is the visual version of that. Enterprise capability on the x-axis, ease of deployment on the y-axis. Most of our competitors sits in the lower left, simple to use, template-based, but not built for enterprise requirements. A few are making move toward enterprise capability, but with complex deployment. Callium sits in the upper right, enterprise-grade architecture, but with a 15-minute deployment for standard use cases because we've built the tooling to support that. That's the quadrant we're building toward, and right now we have a clear lead in it. Let me briefly explain the technical pipeline so you understand how we achieve sub 400 response time. 5 stages. Voice activity detection detects when the caller starts and stops speaking, enabling natural turn taken. ASR conveys speech to text in real time using streaming. RAG retrieve is the relevant business facts. The LLM reason and generate a response. TTS converts that back to speech, also streaming. The key innovation is parallelism. By the time the caller finishes their sentence, ASR have already been streaming the text to the LLM for the last 20 milliseconds. The LLM starts generating before ASR is even done. TTS starts synthesizing before the LLM is done. These stages overlap. On top of that, RAG grounding prevents any hallucination path from existing. Circuit breakers isolate any external API failure. If HubSpot goes down, the call continues. It just logs the failed write for retry. And every call gets its own dedicated GPU compute, so one busy caller doesn't affect another. I want to spend a minute on compliance because this is where I see businesses get hurt. TCPA, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, the FCC ruled in 2024 that the AI generated voices count as artificial voices. That means prior written consent is required before every call. The NC list integration is mandatory. Violations are 500 to 1500 per call. GDPR. For European clients or any business with the EU customers, fines are up to 20 million euro or 4% of global revenue because explicit consent, data minimization, right to erasure, and oral data retention policy are required. HIPAA for healthcare, the violation starts at 100K. The SOC 2 type certification for enterprise clients who need proof of security control, penetration testing, role-based access, or incident responses. These aren't optional, these are the table stake for operating in regulated industries. And here is what this architecture delivers in practice. 40% average cost reduction compared to human staff teams, 3 times more lead qualified per day, 85 faster response time, break even in 60 to 90 days on average, response latency under 400 milliseconds, hallucination rates under 0.6%. These are the numbers that come from building something that actually works, not a demo, not a template, not as a pure workflow that breaks on 2 weeks. This is the difference architecture makes. So, your next employee never sleeps, never lies, and never puts your business at legal risk. If you want to see how Callium would be built for your specific use case, your industry, your workflow, your compliance requirement, book a demo at callium.co. We'll walk you through the architecture together, show you what custom actually looks like, and tell you honestly whether it's the right fit. If you're a developer or agency owner who want to build properly and bill for it properly, join the Callium community. The link will be in the description. And if this video gave you something useful, subscribe because I'm going to keep publishing the technical tools about AI voice agent that the no-code gurus aren't telling. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.